So, you and I go to the same tailor? I like that.
Yeah, we do.
This is good. I like this. So what are we doing today?
Well, the subject is conscious communication. Before we jump right in, I guess I need a definition of it, and our two guests, I'm wondering if they have the same definition, and then go from there. What is your examples, or what is conscious communication? But start with the definition is what I would prefer.
Do you want to start with Lorna or Jim?
Let's start with Lorna. Let's drag her into the conversation.
Lorna Tobin. Hi, Lorna.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you all doing today?
Living the dream. Living the dream.
Good to hear you, Lorna.
All right, so
awesome.
So Greg's
Thank you.
Greg's question is, how are we defining conscious communication?
Well, for me, and what I feel the meaning is to be a conscious communicator is someone who is deliberate and intentional in how they express themselves so that we can nurture the connection with whoever it is that we're communicating with and keeping lines of communication open. That's what I feel it is for me.
Okay. And by the way, Lorna is certified transformational breath facilitator, over 20-plus years experience teaching this method of healing, recently graduated from NHTI in Concord, right over there, with a degree in human services, a mindfulness certificate, and a substance use disorder certificate. She'll be teaching mindfulness and breath work in substance use disorder as she begins her new career. She has a passion to bring mindfulness to the arena of addictions after experiencing her first mindful-based stress reduction course back in 2015. Now, the gentleman sitting here who rode your bike in. Nice bike, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's cool. Jim Readey. All right, so Jim, conscious communication, what is it?
Hey, by the way, that's my third bike in line. It's an old bike.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was going to say it looked old, but
it is very old. I've got another bike that has a flat tire, and I went to get that tube replaced this past weekend, and they said they've got a back order of like 2 months.
Because everybody's at home and everybody's bike.
Exactly, exactly. Wow. And it's a very popular size, too, and everything. But I'm going to just piggyback on what Lorna said. I'm not going to try to give you a straight definition.
You're a former attorney. Of course you're not going to give us a straight definition.
No, and there's going to be 3 subparts to this as well. So I think a lot of us have subconscious motivations that we're totally unaware of. Our subconscious is what usually is dedicated or devoted to our survival. And a lot of that is going on underneath the surface, if you will, and we're mostly unaware of it. It's the safest way for us to operate in the world is to not be aware of our survival reactions all the time, just to act on instinct, if that makes sense. So what we're doing in conscious communication is becoming more aware of the underlying motivations, more aware of our of why we're doing what we're doing, and if we can communicate that to a partner, a friend, whoever we're working with, then we're both clearer on where I'm going. And if you can do the same, then we can perhaps align with our deeper seated intentions, or to get away from the ones that are not really serving us in the moment, if that makes sense.
Would politicians be good conscious communicators?
Probably not.
Okay.
Not during their workday, at least.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that in a debate, for example, the one that just went on before we went on air, is what's going on is they're probably trying to list facts galore, lots of facts, and their thought process of why something should be one way or should be another way. What they're not revealing is how they're feeling. And they're probably, and I'm not going to say this about the two
right. This is not specific. Right.
That who we're just speaking, but they're probably also not revealing their deepest desires. The surface desire is fine, and maybe they're trying to state the voters' desires, but they're not really revealing what they're really wanting.
Would that tell us more about the candidate?
It would tell us more about everybody. Yeah, if you tell me what you really want, why you're sitting in this chair right now, what's
for the money?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There we go.
He's passionate about the money.
And we could even go deeper than that. Lorna can talk about this as well. We can go beneath the surface of why you want money. What is that going to do for you in your life?
I like eating.
Well, you've got plenty of money to eat.
All right,
why do you want more? Why do we want more and more and more in our society?
But and now that is something that I was driving into work this morning, and I was wondering about that. Honest to God.
Sure.
And I didn't know what you were talking about. But I was thinking about Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, how much is enough? Okay, so 50 million, 100 million, 400 million, a bit. How much is enough? And I'm thinking, how much would if somebody said, hey, you got $50,000. Woo! Break out the I am thrilled. Yeah. I am happy. And it's perspective. I'd be thrilled with $50,000, and they're at $50 million, and I'm like, how much is enough?
I think some people are true philanthropists, and they really have a deep desire to make big impact in the world to help people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then there are the others who are operating under subconscious motivations that simply want to fill a hole inside of them that may have been caused in their childhood by some unfulfilled need. And
I grew up poor. We got homeless, so I'm gonna be a self-made man, and I'm not gonna give money to I'm gonna have money all the time.
Once again, it's my parents' fault.
Yeah, okay.
It always is. Do you buy in this, Lorna?
Well, yeah, it's really good conversation, and I really appreciate what Jim had to say, and I think it really feeds conversation. And I'm going to speak for myself right now, and even in this talk, I have a little nervousness underneath that's going on.
Beautiful.
So that is going to play into the conversation. And, when we bring it to the two candidates today, I think that there's qualities of conscious communication that I feel one candidate brought forward over the other. And I would have to say, for me, those qualities are somebody who speaks calmly, speaks slowly, uses brevity in their message and in the way that they're communicating, and someone who pauses. And that person spoke to me more over the person that I feel was coming from what Jim was saying, more of a subconscious wanting to bring forth their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I think they both had agendas,
I think you're right. To your point, the person who expresses their agenda in a very deliberate manner goes head and shoulders above other people.
Say someone who's a little bit more thoughtful might come off a little better than someone that's just spewing what they've been saying for the last 5 months.
Absolutely. And, and it's really the environment in our world today on social media and with the election and people communicating on social media is something that comes to mind. And not even knowing someone, saying horrible things in a post to someone. And, I always relate it to myself and self-reflect and what I've learned in my own ways of communicating. And, there are times when I have an impulse to reactively respond. And then I think, well, I take that pause and, take a deep breath and reflect, well, what is it that I really want to communicate here? Mm-hmm. And I, I have to say, just to bring in, the practices that I use of breath work and meditation, they've been so helpful for me personally in calming my nervous system and being able to take that pause and respond rather than respond in a reactive way.
Yeah, see,
what Jim was saying, subconscious.
You'd never make it in radio. I'm just saying.
So Lorna, you said things that you've recently learned to, I guess, improve your communication. But it just seems like for many people, including myself, I communicate a certain way. I don't know that I would be able to change that. So what is the advice to be able to, look at how you communicate? As Jim was even saying, and Jim, you can comment on this as well. But looking at your underlying, motives or whatever. But what is the ability of someone to really change how they communicate? It just seems that's so ingrained.
But not only that, but why do you want to? I think that's a bigger question.
Yeah. Lorna, do you mind if I jump in? Or go ahead.
Sure, Jim. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I wanted to point out something you did that I'm not sure if the others noticed. At some point, Lorna said, I feel nervous.
Right. I heard that.
And what she did was reveal something of herself that maybe most people wouldn't, especially if they're speaking with people that are on the level of just acquaintances or maybe strangers. And so I feel a little closer to her. I actually feel closer to Lorna. And I don't know if we've met in person, Lorna, but I feel closer to you.
I don't think we have.
Yeah, for that statement that you made, because you're now more vulnerable. And so one of the things we can do to be speaking in a more conscious way is, I'm going to list these 4 elements. We can say the facts, speak the facts, tell you what I'm thinking, which most men spend their time on those 2 elements.
Right.
The third element is something Lorna did, is also reveal what I'm feeling and what the emotions are, and connect it to emotions or what I'm feeling in my body too. So I want to actually feel it. I don't want to just say it from an intellectual point of view. Like, how many of you, when you were growing up and someone asked you guys in the room, how are you feeling? You started off by saying, I don't know, I guess I feel, and we're guessing how we feel. We're not really connected to our bodies. We've kind of numbed out to it.
We're not really in touch with it.
We're not in touch with it. It's an intellectual guess.
Well, I am, but I don't feel comfortable talking about it. So that's why I do the dodge.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to say that you're vulnerable is so opposite that how I would want to project myself to, a group, if I'm presenting. I don't want to go in front of a group and say, hey, I'm feeling vulnerable. It's the last thing I want to appear as.
Well, it may be the last, but if you think about it, if you want to convince a group to trust you, you have to be vulnerable. And I think some candidates understand that, political candidates, celebrities, actors, and entertainers really understand that. And the fourth element, let me just get this one down. It's what do I desire? Revealing it could be to you what I desire, or I could do this practice by myself. I could do it with a pen and paper, or I could just have a close friend, let me talk for a little bit. So I'm going to tell you, this is what I went to the radio station. I spoke with Lorna and the other folks there, and I think that it went well. I feel kind of happy about it, and what I want is to help people connect more deeply with each other, with themselves and with each other. Mm-hmm. And that answers Peter's question, I think, was, why do we want to do this? Because, or in part, we want to get a closer connection with ourselves, and that helps us get establish more intimate, close relationships with others.
Pencil and paper?
Yeah.
Nice job, Boomer.
Journaling.
Well, really. He's sitting over there with a computer.
Use your non-dominant hand. There is a difference between writing with your manually and typing it in.
Oh, I agree. I'm not a social
media
media guy. I like pen, paper. I'm all over. There's that tactile relationship between the brain and the paper.
Boomer and enlightened millennials.
Well, no, and I get that. And it's all good.
But it's just about taking that step, though, to really ask yourself, what do I desire? What do I feel at this point? I've always been good at just plain talking. But it's intellectual, it's surface, I can cover myself in any situation. Does that necessarily draw me any closer to who I'm communicating with? Not really. It's the feeling, it's the desire, it's the stuff inside that's really gonna get that conversation going.
How come you don't do it between 6 and 10?
I'm just talking to you. I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
Peter, you have to let your guard down, Peter, and then Pat will feel safer.
Hey, by the way, Jim. I love you, man.
I bring it back to the emotional piece?
Of course you can.
May I say something there? I really appreciate Jim bringing that forward. One of the things that I've learned on my journey is that vulnerability is where our strength lies. And society is taught that it's weakness. And as a child, I was taught it was weakness. Mm-hmm. I did everything not to express or not to feel or express my feelings. And what I discovered on my own, I've been on a spiritual journey for a long time, is that it is exactly in that feeling and expressing of emotion that leaves space and room, and actually people feel it gives them permission to then express something that they're feeling. And people crave it. They don't realize it, but that's what people want. And it's really where our strength lies.
Now
I just wanted to put that out there.
Communication obviously is two-way. So as you're thinking about all your motives and all your vulnerabilities, you tend to be in your own mind and not necessarily paying attention to the other person. How many times does somebody introduce themselves and 2 seconds later I don't remember their name? How is it that you're able to be receptive to the other individual's message while you're so in your own head about your own, I guess, motives?
Well, that's a really good question.
Yeah, it is.
And it's, it's a big question, too. And for me, I've learned to be curious about people. I have a great curiosity about people. And so that's what I bring forward. And I'm very self-aware. So if I've been talking for a long time, I'm very self-aware that I am, and I'll take a pause and bring it to the other person. So I think that's really about an individual's skill and level. Like, most people aren't trained in how to communicate or taught how to communicate. I live a life of self-improvement and self-growth and self-empowerment. So for me, it's something that I bring forward.
Hey, Lorna, Lorna, I want to see if you agree with me on this, that Greg had a falsity in his premise. He said we'll be caught in our heads. And the whole idea of conscious communication is that you're not caught in your heads. You're connecting to your body. You're feeling what you're feeling, and therefore you're more present. And when we're more present, we hear better. When we're present, we pick up more detail. And we let go of the unimportant detail, and we settle on the ones that are most important in the moment.
Can I submit?
Beautiful. Like that was so beautifully said. Yeah.
Thank you, Lorna.
Yeah.
Wow. Can I submit that social media is one of the biggest retardants to conscious communication that there is today?
I think we'd be unanimous.
Yeah.
Well, I would say social media. Go ahead, Lorna.
Bring it forward.
It's a tool. It's just it's another way to speed up communication, to show photographs, et cetera, et cetera. It's a tool. It's how we use it that's important.
Too many people are using it for the wrong methods.
And I try to use it as consciously as I can. And maybe it's look for those people who are using it more consciously, and you will find them. Mm-hmm. But if you're not finding them, then you're probably using it in a more unconscious way,
right? Or
you're probably not using it at all,
right? Or it's just the headlines. Don't go any deeper, and the facts can be wrong. So.
You buying that, Lorna?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, I just, it's funny. I can relate it to my own personal experience with it today in expressing, or yesterday, how I felt about something on social media, and somebody called me crazy, and I thought, how can I respond to this that, comes from a place of creating awareness? That's what I ask myself. I notice the reaction that comes up in me to want to react back to this, because I'm like, crazy? What? You think I'm crazy? You don't even know me.
Right.
But how do I respond to this person to maybe help teach them and create awareness? And to stop
Interesting.
the horrible communication that goes on there.
Well,
I don't know.
I learned something early on. When you're pointing a finger at somebody, there's 3 other fingers pointing back at you.
Yeah.
Hey,
this is true.
Here's a caveat. We don't use conscious communication with everyone. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be vulnerable in front of everyone, because we're not sure if we can trust them with with our openness.
We don't want to let them in.
Yeah. So with
good point.
With social media, I might just not communicate at all, because I don't want to reveal too much of myself to the world at large. So that goes to, I think, Greg's question in part 2. And we don't just try to open up to every single person we meet. I try to do it, and I bet Lorna does too. Try to figure out early on in the conversation how deep or underneath the surface someone's willing to go.
So in the time we have left, which isn't much, Greg, Pat, and I are all nice guys.
Yeah.
You're telling...
I'm kidding. You guys are great guys.
Okay. Now I'm wounded. All right.
Okay. Let me tell you what I'm feeling right now, Jim.
No. Yes, that's it. I did that to trigger you, just so you'd reveal more of you.
So Greg, Pat, and I are all good guys. If we get into conscious communication, you telling us, Jim and Lorna, we're going to be better?
Oh, I try not to use dualistic terminology like that. How about you, Lorna? Good, bad. I don't get into that.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not a good, bad kind of person.
How about better off? We would be better off.
Your lives would be richer.
Yes. Well, I would suggest that you play with it for yourself and make that decision for yourself.
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, we're just trying
see
to...
for yourself if your life becomes, greater with using conscious communication or not.
If you define more depth and more richness in your relationships, then yes, it would be better. If that's better for you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Some people may not want that.
But see, I like the fact that this is an individual thing as opposed to off the shelf. Do A, B, and C, and you will get D.
Right.
It's not that way at all.
No,
Which I like.
No,
not at all.
No.
Which I like.
And by, I guess, not revealing how you're feeling, et cetera, does that create for individuals stress or anxiety by holding that in?
Yeah, great question. It creates a lack of integrity in our being, in our mind, body, and our spirit, our emotions. If we're disconnected like that, we're not actually knowing our own emotions. The energy doesn't flow well.
Right.
And that leads to dis-ease.
Lorna Tobin.
I love that.
Nice. See,
Yeah.
there was no reason to be nervous. See? and you did well. Jim Readey, one of the owners of the Concord Food Co-op.
Yeah, very well. I've made millions.
Oh, I didn't know that, Jim.
Well, you are. I think you are too, Lorna.
Yeah, teaching yoga and meditation. See, and Greg is too.
Yeah, we're 80 short of 8,000 owners.
That's
Really?
awesome. That's
Wow.
amazing.
Jim's been teaching yoga and meditation for the past 25 years. And his mission is to help individuals live their healthiest, happiest, and fullest lives possible.
I teach mindful improv comedy too.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Which is a great way to go.
You're such a hoot. I can imagine. Greg, it's any September rounded up.
Rounded Up is the Marine Society. I can never remember the Marine Society. And
Why do I should just go to Kim.
And for the Rounded Up at the Register program, we're about $400 short of $60,000 since we started this program last April.
Huge.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Helping our community.
Concord Food Co-op, ConcordFoodCoop.coop. Anything special going on?
Oh, it's all kinds of fresh produce coming in from all the local farmers, so I would take advantage of that.
Do it now. Eat now, freeze, can. Do it now. Do it now. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Jim, Lorna, Greg, thank you. Kim, as
you
always.
guys.
Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you.
all. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
You're in the mood for real food. It's Concord Food Co-op.